September 17th, 1787, a standout date on the timeline of human progress. On this day, the echoes of quills scratching against parchment filled a room in Philadelphia, and those echoes continue to reverberate through the corridors of time. Today, on a day like this back in 1787, the day the US Constitution was signed, let's take a step back, rewind our clocks, and paint an image of the late 18th century. Picture bustling cities filled with horse-drawn carriages, sophisticated attire, feathered quills, and boundless energy for radical change. The air was ripe with tension, buzzing with theories of governance, rights, and the idea of a unified nation. Now, at this time, America was a mere teenager on the world stage. The United States had just declared its independence from Britain in 1776 after a grueling struggle, the Revolutionary War. A document had been created that echoed out like a triumphant battle cry, the Declaration of Independence. It voiced the shared ideals of these new states, the idea that all men are created equal. It revolved around unalienable rights like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, boldly opposing any power that threatened these. But envisioning a novel idea and implementing it weren't the same kettle of fish. After drawing lines under their relationship with Britain and proclaiming their sovereignty to the world, they needed something tangible, a guiding light to navigate through this newfound independence. To fill this need was born the Articles of Confederation. Now, allow me to introduce you to the Articles of Confederation if they're not already old friends. They marked the first attempt to create a national government in this newly formed country. The Articles were like a democratic experiment, a loose tie between these young states granting limited powers to the central government. They were designed to hold these existentially diverse states together without impinging upon their individual freedom. But soon it became evident that this overly cautious approach was creating its own set of issues. The central government lacked the authority it needed to be efficient. It couldn't enforce laws uniformly, couldn't levy taxes or regulate trade. This burgeoning nation full of potential stuttered along for a few years under this framework, but cracks began to show. The inability to sustain a standing army, creditors doubting the country's ability to pay back debts, the list stretched on. It was quickly becoming clear that while the Articles of Confederation had welded a diverse group of states into a singular nation, it couldn't cultivate an environment for this young nation to prosper. Like a fledgling peering out from its nest, the United States knew it had wings. It just didn't quite know how to fly yet. Pulsing under the surface of these 13 states was a shared understanding that change, substantial, structural change, was impending. Take yourself back to that time, taste the vibrancy of that era, of revolution and growth, as we step closer to that pivotal day in September. Our stage is set, the groundwork laid for change. All that awaited was a stroke of genius, a new beginning etched in ink, the US Constitution. Fast forward to the summer of 1787. The air in Philadelphia was thick with anticipation, expectation, and refreshing ideals of change. Delegates from almost all states gathered for what was to be referenced in the annals of history as the Constitutional Convention. Their mission? To carve out a robust, well-structured, and balanced national governance model that would carry their shared vision for a young nation forward. The star-studded assembly included prominent figures like George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and James Madison, men known for their vision, understanding, and more importantly, their unwavering commitment to the cause of a unified free nation. As the curtains drew up on this significant event, it was George Washington, a man held in high esteem for his leadership during the Revolution, who was unanimously elected as its president. At the heart of this convention was James Madison, rightfully nicknamed Father of the Constitution. Madison came prepared with a plan, the Virginia Plan, which formed the backbone of the discussions that ensued. His insights and relentless push for unity and diversity helped shape the core of what the Constitution is celebrated for even today. For months that summer, these delegates put their heads together under one roof in picture-ridden debates and discussions. They argued, disagreed, but most importantly, they negotiated and compromised. It wasn't an easy task. How could it be? These were men shaping the future of a nation. They weren't just representing themselves, but their states, with their unique culture, economy, and demographics. The task at hand? Bring together an array of ideas and converge them into one unified document that respected individual freedom yet held collective power. Finally, on September 17, 1787, a pivotal moment arrived. Imagine being there as 39 delegates inked their signatures on the US Constitution, a piece of parchment that was about to alter the world's political landscape dramatically. The room must have been steeped in an awe-inspiring silence, the only sound heard that of quills scratching against paper, each stroke echoing the powerful impact of that moment. Now, you may ask, why was this event so crucial not just for America but for the world? Why do we still gather around the memory of it more than 200 years later? It's because of what it represented and what it achieved. You see, what those 39 men signed off on that day wasn't merely a piece of parchment. No, it was a symbol of collective agreement that put forth a unique, balanced model where power was divided yet unified. A republic, if you can keep it, as Benjamin Franklin famously said. The U.S. Constitution established the first successful model of federalism, a system wherein power is divided between national and state governments. It was a blueprint for a democratic system which many nations have since adapted to fit their unique contexts. This Constitution didn't just define the United States, it redefined the world's perception of governance. So join us today as we tip our hats to September 17, 1787. A day when quill met parchment and a nation began its journey towards becoming one of the world's most influential republics. But stay tuned, as this was just the signing. Up ahead, we explore the immediate aftermath and how these words on paper shaped America itself. As the ink dried on the newly minted Constitution, the real test of its resilience was just beginning. Immediate recognition and acceptance of the Constitution was far from a given. It had to be ratified by at least 9 out of the 13 states to come into effect. This undertaking might seem simple on the surface, but it spearheaded one of the most impassioned national debates in American history. On one side of the aisle were the Federalists, who welcomed the new Constitution. They believed in a strong central government with ample powers to administer effectively. Spearheaded by figures like Alexander Hamilton and James Madison, they embarked on a persuasive campaign to rally support, penning thought-provoking essays which we now celebrate as the Federalist Papers. But the path wasn't strewn with rose petals. Enter the Anti-Federalists, a bipartisan group of critics led by prominent figures like Patrick Henry and Samuel Adams. They feared that the Constitution, for all its brilliance, failed to safeguard individual and state rights sufficiently. They argued that it leaned too heavily toward centralization, reminiscent, in their eyes, of the British system they had just repelled. Weeks turned into months, but the conversation kept buzzing across taverns, assemblies, and households. Each side passionately argued its case for why the Constitution should be accepted or altered. It was a battle of ideas, a true manifestation that democracy was alive and thriving. Eventually, after heated debates and umpteen meetings, the scales tipped in favor of progress. Delaware was first off the mark in December of 1787, and by June 1788, New Hampshire became the 9th state to ratify, marking the official adoption of the U.S. Constitution. Nevertheless, recognizing the sound rationale of anti-federalist concerns about individual rights, the Bill of Rights was introduced in 1791 as the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. The immediate aftermath was far from smooth sailing. It held its fair share of teething troubles, disagreements, even rebellions. But through it all, the Constitution held strong. It provided both structure and flexibility through its provisions of amendments. It gave enough to accommodate growth, change, and evolution. Now let's look at the lasting legacy of this event. For more than 2 centuries, the U.S. Constitution has remained the guiding star for American democracy. It effectively established a government that ensured checks and balances, a critical aspect that's central to preventing misuse of power. Moreover, the ideas enshrined in the Constitution transcended beyond America to influence myriad other nations. Its principles sparked discussions and provided a blueprint for countries around the world to follow, from Europe and Asia to Africa and Latin America. In the grand scheme of human history, the signing of the U.S. Constitution is but a blink, a brief moment when 39 men put quill to parchment. But that blink unleashed a democratic vision so profound that it continues to steer America's boat even after 200+ years, inspiring countless many along the course. So there you have it. Today we dove into the tumultuous era of 1787, where the newly independent USA was struggling with its government structure under the Articles of Confederation. We witnessed the solution in the form of the U.S. Constitution, created in the summer of that year, signed on September 17th, and later ratified by the states, setting the stage for America as we know it. We walked through the halls of the Constitutional Convention beside visionary delegates like George Washington and James Madison, feeling their passion for creating a balanced democratic model. Then, we transitioned to watching this bedrock of democracy weather heated debates, criticisms, and rigorous ratification process before standing tall as it does today. While it's easy to flip open a textbook and see the Constitution represented in tidy diagrams and bullet points, it's crucial to realize that history isn't produced in an assembly line. It's messy, filled with debates, disagreements, compromises, victories, and losses. It's colored by a spectrum of human emotion, hope, fear, ambition, and determination. And it's this history, rich and brimming with stories of tenacity and triumph, that shaped a collective legacy which continues to influence our present. Always remember that each date on a calendar is more than just a flip of a page. It's an echo of moments that have shaken and shaped our world. We believe it's essential to remember and understand these stories from our past because they give us insights and perspectives that ultimately craft our collective future. If you found today's journey through September 17th as fascinating as we did, share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Did you know about the significance of this day in history? Do you think there were any equally important events that happened on this day? What topics would you like us to dive into next? Don't forget to give this video a like if it brought you some flavor of the past. And if you haven't yet, click subscribe and the bell icon for more historical stories. Remember, there's a universe of history waiting to be explored, so stay tuned, stay curious, and I'll see you next time to explore another event that happened on a day like this.